Welcome to the Victorious POD podcast with your hosts, Jack Vickers and Tyler Herman.
What up, Pod Squad? Welcome back to another edition of the Victorious POD. We are coming at you live with a new in-season episode here, our preview of the Week 1 matchups coming up here, as well as some draft results for our home leagues, and we've got a bunch of in-season challenges that we're going to be going over with you guys. But first off, I'm going to welcome my co-host Tyler, and I'm going to, as always, pick his brain on the burning questions that are much needed in this day and age. So, cool. Tyler, I got a would you rather question for you. It's a little bit more sports-based, but by sports I just mean pain. So, would you rather take a fastball to prime or from prime Randy Johnson in your ribs, or get hit sticked by Ray Lewis? We'll say you're wearing a helmet, but you're not going to get any more pads. Or get a punch to the face by prime Floyd Money Mayweather. You don't even get a mouth guard.
I don't even get a mouth guard to protect these pearly whites?
You don't even get a name tag. Got no chance.
I don't even get a name tag. Oh, man. I recuse myself, and I don't want to play. I'm telling you right now, there's a 0.0% chance that I'm taking a fastball to the ribs from Randy Johnson. If any baseball player knows that, even as a 12-year-old, if you're getting thrown at and it was going 50 miles an hour, it hurts like a son of a bitch no matter where you get hit. And to take a 98-mile-an-hour fastball to the ribs, hard pass. All right, so that's three for sure. That's a no way.
Yeah,
it's close between the other two, but I feel like Ray would just break bones, and then the toughest part with that is then he's also landing on top of you if he's sticking you.
That's true.
Probably likely. So I'm taking the Floyd Mayweather punch to the face first, and then Ray hit stick, and then Randy Johnson fastball to the ribs.
I think I'd die if Floyd punched me in the face. Like, I don't know how to take a punch like that, and I just think I'd be...
That's true. Just have to go like dead relaxed.
What if okay, I got two addendums. If the Ray Lewis one, you could guarantee you're not breaking anything. It's just pain. And or the Randy Johnson one, like, what if there's a chance it's not hitting you right in the ribs? If you can, like, turn into it and it hits you in the side or the back or the, like, I'm not going to guarantee where it hits you, but, like, it's coming at you and you just have a chance to move or whatever. That change any of those three?
I don't know that it does.
It's hitting you. Let me be clear. It's hitting you somewhere.
No, because nothing else in there feels good. Like, any of this inside of rib cage, get hit in the shoulder, like, that shit hurts.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no, I don't think so. I think I'm keeping it.
Okay, and yeah. If I could guarantee I'm not breaking any bones, I might take the Ray Lewis one. But
I could see the Ray.
It's not going to feel good. I am sleeping if it's Floyd, so that's the scary part. Yep. Well, there you go. You're welcome, everybody who asked. Thank you to the one fan that wrote in that question. Speaking of fan interaction, we have a fan interaction zone / a tailgate zone that you can get involved with us on in a number of ways. So if you want to join the Discord, we're going to ramp that up a little bit more with in-season starting. So us Vikings fans love to go in there and just be miserable. But other games and stuff too. You can leave questions or reactions in there. YouTube, you can follow us and subscribe. It really helps us out. We're at 115 subs, which is pretty exciting. So we have our own official YouTube handle in the show notes down below. We're now on weekly episodes, like I talked about, in season. So there'll be tons of content week to week to help set your lineups or do the exact opposite of what we tell you. And we're going to do some more shorts too for just quick interactions, kind of hot takes, stuff like that. So be on the lookout for those. Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. So NFL news-wise, getting into that. Really quickly, there's not a ton of news since we just talked recently. It's all just kind of preseason stuff and guesses. But big ones, Cooper Kupp is seeing a specialist for a hamstring injury after another setback. So he's in Minnesota currently. Doesn't help on the biggest draft weekend in the world, but not feeling great there.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those. This is why you draft as late as possible, type of things like that in a redraft league. This is why you do this, so you can really see who's fully healthy or not healthy going into the season. As we all know, hamstrings are a pesky little injury, so it's not just going to be like hey, Kupp's going to be out for week 1 and maybe week 2 and he'll be back. Kind of the one thing they said is we're not bringing him back until he's ready for performance, not he's able to play, performance. So they're going to be cautious with him.
those of you who remember Keenan Allen last year, who just was out for 7 weeks, never on the pup, but it was like a week-to-week game of, not quite, maybe next week. Like it's
yeah.
Even if he comes back after a game or two, it doesn't mean he's back. Like he just might, like Keenan re-aggravated it and then was out until week 11 again. Like it's just a thing that doesn't go away. So not feeling great. We can kind of get into it later, but I don't know where you'd really feel. You're not going to ever feel comfortable drafting him at this point. But I think like for me, if you hit like last third of the second round is probably where I say, okay, I'm going to do it. But it just really depends. Yeah. There's so many other good guys there in the top 20 that I just would have a tough time passing on them. Maybe if you get to like the T. Higgins kind of tier or Devonta Smith, maybe. I don't know. That's where I would lean. But
agreed, because he's going to come back at some point. And again, if they allow him to rest and he doesn't try to come back too soon, say that's a quasi pup stint. Say that's 4 weeks. You still get 12, 13 weeks of prime Cooper Kupp. You're going to feel plenty good about that on the back end of the mid to back end of the season where it really matters. So I think that's about fair.
You just have to survive and get there, still alive at that point.
Yeah.
Number 2, big news, more not really fantasy related, but just because we're Vikings. Kyle Rudolph officially announced retirement from the NFL. So shout out to him. Great former Viking, big fan.
Good job, Kyle.
Yeah, took the Saints out in that playoff game. That's all that matters. And then lastly,
that was awesome.
The non-push off that I'm happy they didn't call. Lastly, I'll let Tyler react to this other one. But Travis Kelce had a rough day of practice today. He hyperextended his knee at practice. They came out like a couple hours later, basically this evening, and said that the MCL is intact. So that's a huge plus. So his week 1 status is in doubt, but it doesn't seem like he sustained a massive injury. Yeah.
Sorry for all people wearing headphones and are listening to that. I won't do that again.
Yeah, take that, Spotify listeners.
So remember when I said draft late? Yeah, we drafted yesterday, and guess who your boy took in the first round?
Oh, I'm so glad, because I was deciding between those two and left you the other one, so you're welcome.
Yeah, Jack was douche canoe and took my boy Bijan, and so he left me Kelce. And so here we are. And then so I took Kelce for the first time ever. I've literally never had Kelce on a team.
We were talking about this too, yeah.
Ever. And for the first time, I'm like, well, it's going to here or drop off down to like Saquon or Chubb, and like try to half PPR this year for the first time in a long time. So I'm like, maybe I'll take that just because of the receptions. You have 110 receptions, so that'll help. And I was like, I've never done it, so let's just give it a shot. And then the next day, guess how many games Travis Kelce has missed during his career to injury? Guess.
Less than 1.
0. He missed 1 game in 2021 due to COVID, and he's missed 0 games due to injury. And the first time I ever drafted him, he's like, "Hey, by the way, ouch."
You don't need your first round pick.
Me after my draft first round pick.
I'm kicking my ass, Divine.
Yeah, here's what it is. We'll see how it goes.
It'd be very interesting, like if you had drafts after this, if he slips into like the early second round, because I don't think he's going to miss long, but I guess we also don't know with the knee. So it'd be a very nice, like, I would love to take the shot on Kelce, assuming I got a locked up like RB wide receiver first. So if you're picking like late first round, pairing him, like doing a Diggs Kelce start or like a Chubb Kelce kind of thing would feel very nice, but hopefully we get some more clarity soon. So.
Like honestly, we'll see what happens. Just kind of final point. Really, all they're looking for is swelling. Obviously, they did the MRI and everything is intact, which is great. Honestly, from what it sounds like, and again, we'll see what happens in the next couple days with blah blah blah. They just happened to be playing on Thursday. If they weren't playing on Thursday, if they were playing on Sunday, things might be just fine.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Bad timing. Bad. Maybe it'll be nice and they'll just leave him out week 1 and he'll get that full week and a half rest kind of thing. I don't know, but
exactly.
All right, moving into our
first. It is what it is.
Yeah. Moving into our first of many challenges that we're going to be covering to keep things interesting. We got the NFL Pick'em that we did last year. We're doing a little bit of an abbreviation to it this year, but shout out to 2022. Tyler won it with 16 wins. Nick had second place with 15 wins, and I was third with 14. So we had about 8 or 9 of us, I think, competing just for fun. If anybody else wants to get in on it that you're listening, we've got about 7 or 8 of us doing it this year if you want to join in. The only difference is last year we did picking one team per week. That went great until we kind of figured out halfway through the season that you're not going to have to use half the teams. So, quick addendum. You're picking 2 teams per week this time. You're going to use all 32 teams by week 16. At least that avoids the week 17s and 18s of playoff teams sitting their players, and we got a built-in tiebreaker if we need it. But yeah, so 2 teams per week. Once you pick them, can't use them again. So you got to kind of strategize when you want to use the Cardinals or the Texans, for example, because it's got to happen at some point. So week 1, Tyler, if you want to kick it off, and we'll follow from there.
Yeah, so kind of the most common one, it seems like, and it's kind of a get them out of their way. And just because they seem to be matched up to the worst teams in the NFL projected this year. So my first one, pretty much everybody's going kind of consensus for one of their picks, it seems. Commanders over the Cardinals, 7-point favorites. That's kind of crazy. I mean, the Cardinals don't even know who they're starting at quarterback. It could be Josh Dobbs, it could be Clayton Tune. Like, we really just have no idea. It's going to be pretty brutal. So when the Commanders are 7-point favorites over the Cardinals, there's going to be a lot of fade the Cardinals this year. So that's my first pick. And then the other one, interdivision, so a little bit scary. But I'm going to take my Fighting Falcons over the Panthers at home. I think the spread's like 3.5, so kind of spicy. I don't think anybody else kind of went that. Other people went a little bit more safe. I went pretty safe all last year, so I'm like, let's get rid of 2 of the quasi middle to back end pack of the teams first and see if I can go 2-0.
What are you talking about? Your division winning Falcons? Come on.
I said they're going to win the division at like 9-8.
That's fair.
I didn't say they were going to be good. NFC South is brutal.
I also went Commanders over Cardinals along with pretty much everybody else. And my second pick was another interdivision game. I'm going the Jags over the Colts, mainly kind of the same situation where Colts are going to be starting a rookie quarterback. They don't have Jonathan Taylor. A lot of the rest of their team isn't doing great, and the Jags are everybody's big hype pick this year. So bringing in Calvin Ridley, I think they're going to try to score a lot. I don't think the Colts will be able to keep up, and training wheels are going to be on for the rookie early on. So those are my 2. Bringing out the rest of the teams here, Nate has Commanders over Cardinals and Ravens over Texans, the biggest point differential of the week. Pretty safe one there. Connor went Commanders over Cardinals and Broncos over Raiders. That could be another kind of interesting upset, spicy one, potentially with the Raiders upsetting them. Joe went Kansas City over Detroit. He said he's going to try to pick the Thursday night game as long as he can. So just to make something fun, have a different extra challenge in there. And then Commanders over Cardinals. And then Foster, the only one that didn't go Commanders over Cardinals, he went Seahawks over Rams and Vikings over Bucks. So he said that he figured that would probably be a pretty popular pick. And I said, not at all, because I think the rest of us are just scared as Vikings fans. So
yeah, for sure.
Again, if anybody else wants to join in on those and get in on it, let me know by Sunday. Shoot Tyler or I a message or comment it somewhere. Otherwise, we have people to join a couple of weeks in last year too, so we can figure some averages out or not have you be super behind. On a bigger scale of our little tiny measly pick'em thing, we have the Minnesota Sports NFL season-long pick'em on CBS Sports. So friends of the show, Minnesota Sports, that go live on Wednesdays on Facebook. They're not fantasy related. They're more just all Minnesota sports, so Twins, Wild, Timberwolves as well. But they run an NFL season-long pick'em. So you're basically just picking the winners of every single game, kind of similar to how the analysts will do it on different NFL networks and stuff, and just keep your records tracked throughout the year. So no spreads involved, just winners and losers. Last season, I went to 168 points, which I think was around top 4 or top 5, but we'll just use it for context to kind of see if we can beat that this year. 2 years ago, in their inaugural one, I actually took the championship home. So we're trying to do that again, but last year was a little bit tougher. Tyler is also going to be in it with me this year. So what we're going to do is we're just going to list the winners week to week, and then whoever doesn't list them is going to say if there's any differences. So week 1 winners. Chiefs over Lions, Commanders over Cardinals, Falcons over Panthers, Bengals over Browns, Ravens over Texans, Jags over Colts, 49ers over Steelers, Vikings over Bucks, Saints over Titans, Packers over Bears, Seahawks over Rams, Broncos over Raiders, Chargers over Dolphins, Eagles over Patriots, Cowboys over Giants, and Bills over Jets. Tyler, any differences there?
First off, well done, sir. Second off, no, sir, none at all. All Perfect. Completely the same. Back to you.
Literally, I promise we won't have the same week to week, but our only upset pick is the Packers over the Bears, and we both picked that. Apparently, the Packers are the 32% favorites in CBS, which just goes off of how many people pick them to win. So that's the only spicy one. We just don't believe the Bears will actually beat the Packers pretty much ever. So, that's about it for that. We'll keep you tracked on our points as we go week to week. There should be anywhere from 12 to 16 points to be gained every week, so hopefully we can start out strong. moving into general fantasy talk, getting away from just NFL news things, we're going to bring back one of our favorite segments of all time, and my proud creation of
swimming,
two.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
Makes me so happy. I love that sound.
So good. It's so good.
My proud creation of 2 years ago that I genuinely don't think I saw this on any fantasy show or analyst or whatever. I just was like, this would be a fun thing to do, because I'm usually known as one of the people in our leagues that takes one of the last quarterbacks. So I came up with a swimming upstream, which is, for those of you that don't know, essentially Tyler and I are each going to pick a quarterback who's rostered in 50% or less of leagues in ESPN. So just based off of that format, what have you, one quarterback leagues. And we're picking them as which one of those bottom half quarterbacks owned is our pick for a great matchup that week. So streaming only, you could pick the same guy back to back if you want, as long as he stays underneath that threshold. So for context, last year, Tyler destroyed me. Tyler did better than most people should be doing as a streaming thing, but he had 337.9 points, which was an average of 19.8, 4-point passing touchdowns, just standard scoring. It was QB5, only 12 points behind Joe Burrow. So obviously, we don't have to worry about injuries as much, which is nice, but we're behind the 8 ball, so it's pretty tough to do. The fact that you could have just said, I don't want to pick a quarterback, and then Tyler could have had the QB5 was pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's an outlier.
I did less
That's an outlier.
that, but I did more of what you would expect. I ended at QB 13, 7 points out of a QB 1. So I think that was a 15.5 point average, which is better than you can ask most weeks streaming. So it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. We'll take that. We're hoping to be a little bit more in the norm. If we can both be QB 1s this year, that'd be ideal. So for 2023, with Tyler being the champ of last year, we're letting him kick things off this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2023, but I ain't changing. I'm not leaving.
2022.
I'm not leaving. It's still 2022. For some reason, Jared Goff still being slept on. I'm not leaving. I'm gonna take him. I'll take him Thursday night against KC. I figure game script wise, likely going to be behind, which means Jared Goff's going to be throwing. They're going to unwrap this shiny new toy named Jahmyr Gibbs. Checkdowns out of the backfield. So if they find themselves behind, obviously he's going to be slanging it around. Amon-Ra St. Brown getting all those receptions as well. So give me some Jared Goff against KC.
And no Chris Jones, so that's helpful.
And no Chris Jones. Good point. Good point.
That was my clear and obvious number 1 pick too. So I had a backup here that is going to be a lot more spicy, or your stomach's not going to feel good doing it. I mean, nobody's starting a streaming quarterback week 1, but hypothetically, I am going with Sam Howell against the Arizona Cardinals. So worst defense basically in the league last year. Sam Howell, the new guy that basically rode the bench all last season, had to watch the Carson Wentz Parsons project debacle going on. Sam Howell actually ran a ton in college, and he decently did that last year as well. So I'm thinking between him having Jahan Dotson taking a step forward and the Cardinals just not being able to stop anybody, I think it's going to be a rough game. But Howell is one that I think he's projected 16, like you said. With the rushing baseline, he could easily exceed that. But if he starts out with 15, 16, I'll be happy. So
I like it. Certainly would have been my second choice as well.
Yeah. We usually end up having like the same two. It's just whoever's turn it is that week, it seems like. So
that is true.
I hope I didn't screw myself, because last year I remembered every single time it was your pick first, there was a clear and obvious one.
Yeah.
So that's going to make
Justin Fields like 3 times.
Yeah. I was like, I don't get to pick him this week. He's
like, how is he not 50% owned?
So dumb. All right. Well, going off of that one, we talked about fan interaction a little bit earlier. The biggest way to help out supporting us is commenting on our YouTube shows. So either the full episode or our shorts that we try to put out a handful. Hopefully in season we'll be getting like 3-4 in between Tuesday episodes here and there. But the biggest comments we had over the last couple of weeks was our debate on the would you rather for the tire change versus the walking a mile question for your car. So if you guys didn't hear that, go check that out. We'll try to post another. Did we post a short for that one? Was that already?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So check that out. It's 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's where that came from. Perfect. All of a sudden I was like, why is this? I was like, what is this? 2,000 people looking at it right now and like 20 comments. I'm like, up. Damn.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to keep doing more of those would you rather goofy ones. But it was hotly debated on YouTube. So check out that short if you didn't watch the entire hour-long episode. It was pretty entertaining. Speaking of our last 2 episodes, it was a 2-parter 2 weeks ago. We had one half, which was divisional predictions for Tyler and I's full top to bottom divisions, every single one in the NFL, and then some spicy takes as well, which A lot of them pretty crazy. We don't have all of them on shorts out yet, but there's some pretty ballsy ones. So go check those out, see if you agree. And then the other part we had was our mock draft 2.0 plus some really good shorts throughout. So we had like a two of my guys short. We had a Devontae Adams spicy take about whether he's going to potentially fall off an age cliff this year. Anthony Richardson, we had a prediction for him breaking an NFL record. Damian Pierce, whether his ADP is a value or a bust. So kind of just some variety, but cool stuff to check out if you don't have time to watch the entire episode, but we appreciate it if you do. As far as predictions, we're going to try to include these, so just week to week. It'll be easier in season, but we'll have good or bad calls from our previous episodes and shorts. The only big one that I put down here was I had Van Jefferson like a month ago as a diamond in the rough late round pick. That's looking great now with Cup possibly out. So not what I envisioned, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty much it. So if you guys, again, if you have questions that you want to toss out, if you want to have us debate this or that for players or a matchup, if you want to find out who we would start as a flex on your bench, let us know that kind of stuff and we can always discuss it. We will talk about every single YouTube comment we have each week. So now we move into another fan favorite of last year, Ship It or Skip It, where basically I come up with three random ass questions, usually fantasy or at least NFL related, and I just toss them out to Tyler and he gives like a couple sentence answer. So we keep them short, but we at least give you some new discussions out here. So first, Ship It or Skip It. Which new face, not counting rookies, but new face as far as a veteran from one team that's on a new team this year, is going to have the most surprising fantasy impact week one? And when I say most surprising, I don't just mean who's going to score the most. I mean who's like somebody we're not expecting to do something that they'll do week one.
Ooh, interesting. I
have a few options there.
There's a few here. I could see somebody like Jamal Williams picking up right where he left off last year, especially with Kamara suspended and Kendra Miller continuing to be hurt. Everybody's kind of faded him with obviously Kamara coming back, and he bumped up a little bit with the suspension, but everybody got the Kendra Miller hype. Watch Jamal Williams get like 3 more of those 1-yard touchdowns and be like, he's the exact same guy. That's entirely possible to see. And I think Derek Carr is going to lead that offense just fine. And obviously it's a brutal division. So I can see week one, Jamal Williams punching 2 or 3 more in and just being like, let's keep the train rolling just like last year.
Yeah, I do like that because it could easily be with Kamara out and with Kendra injured. Yeah. Like you don't have anybody in his way. So it's just kind of like I don't know what's going to really stop him.
Yeah, it's a goal line bowling ball.
For me, I had to leave out a lot of guys that we're already high on. I mean, like the Rodgers hype train is out of control. We both love Waller, obviously, so I'm not going to say that like he's going to surprise people exactly. Yeah. I think one that isn't really being talked about. I'll give you 2 guys that are basically the exact same explanation. Neither of them were being talked about. That used to be really hyped even as of last year, and I just think that there's not really going to be any competition, at least early on in the season, for targets. It's Juju in the Patriots and Dalton Schultz over in the Texans. Both gross, both bad passing attacks, but like name another receiver off the top of your head on the Patriots. And then the Texans is all just either like rookies or no-name guys that it could just be Stroud being like, oh my God, I'm about to get hit. Just give me the short passes. So I wouldn't be surprised. Both of them are going to be rough. I mean, the Texans with Schultz are playing the Baltimore Ravens week one, and the Patriots are playing the Eagles. So I expect them both to lose, but that just means they're going to be throwing. So watch either one of them go out and post some crazy like 7 for 80 yards and a touchdown kind of stat, and everybody will run to the waiver wire to pick them up. I don't think they're going to really do it long term, but like that's the kind of stupid stuff that happens, and everybody drops all their fab to get them. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I like that for certainly. And you know me, like if I punted tight end, I've just taken Dalton Schultz because I'm like, somebody has to catch the ball. Yep. That's it. Somebody has to catch it. So it's probably going to be him.
Yeah, he's the Darren Waller light of just like, there's nobody else. So I guess he's going to catch them all.
Yeah, that's true.
Following up, I just mentioned kind of the Rodgers hype train, but for those of you that have been watching Hard Knocks, which it's been great, will the Hard Knocks Aaron Rodgers hype look accurate week one? I'm not saying they're going to beat Buffalo because that's obviously a great contender, though they could. But will the Jets come out of week one with everybody saying, okay, they look like contenders, like they're going to be tough?
Yeah, I certainly think they can, just because I think, again, if Buffalo gets any type of lead, you're going to get to watch Aaron slang it all over the field. And with Dalvin there as well, obviously a very capable pass catcher, you're going to see some Garrett Wilson get out there and do his thing. So I can certainly see Aaron Rodgers keeping them at least in the game for sure. And just watching him sling it around is fun. I'm sure Garrett Wilson will make some ridiculous catch and everybody be like, that's what we've been waiting for. They're going to be awesome. And that's all that's going to be plenty hyped. That's all you're going to see, whether they win or lose.
My personal take is I think it's going to end up being a bit of a letdown game in terms of I think it'll be a low scoring but like close game. I think everybody's going to be waiting for like talking all week about Monday night and like, oh, I can't wait to see Josh Allen's offense and Aaron Rodgers is going to light it up. Well, I feel like it's going to end up being like a 17-14 gross game because both defenses are good, and I could see it just being something where it's like, I mean, yeah, they were close, but like, I think the defense is going to be the story this year for the Jets. I think all the hype of Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and the two running backs, like, yes, their offense has weapons, but I think it's going to be more the defense, and that this game will show that. Like, it's not going to be a team that all of a sudden overnight became a 30-plus point scorer. So,
yeah, it's always one of the brutal things to do, but it's also as I put my betting brain on, it's one of the most profitable things to do. Is first off just unders in general, because you think how many things have to go right for an over to hit. Somebody has to stay healthy the entire game, has to be the correct game script. They have to they have to be catchable passes or whatever it may be. It's not hard. I should say it's easier for things to go under. Injuries happen. Game script changes off of what you think. So unders are way more profitable in any type of player props. So I pre-apologize for people watching my videos because I do like unders. But on top of that, when you get these big hype games like this, there's usually a letdown. You see the total of the points like this, probably 47, 48, but especially for even ones like Thursday with KC, it's like 54.
Yeah.
That usually inflates those props pretty darn high. So you're going to see like Amon-Ra St. Brown with like 73 and a half, 74 receiving yards for a total. That's a high total, honestly, if you think about it. So sometimes looking for those week one unders with a lot of these hyped games, it's no fun to root for bad football. But at the end of the day, if you're just trying to make money, those unders can be a real profitable, especially week one.
Yeah, well said. Speaking of more hype, partially because he's your guy and partially because I ended up having him our main league here, but talking about Bijan Robinson and his debut, what is the line between happiness and disappointment in Bijan's opening day debut? For those at home, and to give context, basically like give me a box score, total yards, or just rushing whatever and touchdowns that you'll be happy with as long as he gets this, or if he gets under this, you're going to be like, wow, it makes me sad.
I think probably people are going to be sad with total yardage of anything under like 100-ish would be my guess. And especially because they're playing the Panthers. And the Panthers are atrocious, like we talked about earlier. So if you see a line for like 17 carries for 85 yards and 3 catches for 35 yards or 40 yards, I feel like people are going to be fine, even if he doesn't score a touchdown. Be like, hey, 100 total yards, get him off the ground, blah, blah, blah. But if you see a stat line and it's like 12 for 60 and 2 catches for 22 yards, you're going to be really pissed that he put up just like 8.5 points and no touchdowns. So I feel like that threshold is right about 100 total yards, and then people aren't going to worry if he gets a touchdown. If he gets to like 70 or 80 yards in a touchdown, it's going to be 14.5. People are going to be fine. But if he gets to like 60, 70 yards total and no touchdown, people are going to be like, sound the alarms against the Panthers. So I feel like that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it'll just be tough week one just because I see teams always kind of using the running backs in slow. Like I think Algier will get some looks. He could even be the one that gets the touchdown or like the goal line touch. Mine was going to be, before you even said anything, was going to be like 85 yards. So yeah, I think it'll be lower than people are expecting. So you're probably right in terms of people will be disappointed if it's not high enough. Mine is assuming it'll be lower. So if he, being a Bijan owner, if he gets 85 plus yards, I'll be like, yeah, okay, it wasn't great, but I'll take it. If it's below 80 or something without a touchdown, I'm going to be freaking out with my first round pick. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Yep.
All right. Moving on into probably going to be my most favorite segment week to week. We're going to have an entire segment devoted to just some crazy leagues that we're in. So not just redrafts and dynasties and all that, but some other ones with some unique rules in scoring and stuff. So first off, shout out to Al, one of our listeners who came up with this last year, wherever he found it. But yours truly came up with the name, so I'm very proud of it as well. But the Bomb Squads and Butt Cheeks League, which if those of you that just heard it, yes, you heard correctly. But essentially what this is 10 of us drafted 3 teams each in the NFL. So not players, not fantasy-wise. You're just taking the Vikings or whatever. And your goal is to either have a combo of 3 teams that are going to have a lot of wins or a lot of losses. All 10 of us are in it. And the one with the most wins and the one with the most losses between their 3 teams splits the pot. So just be one or the other. Just don't be the middle. Tyler can attest he was almost 500 last year somehow. So
I was exactly 500.
Yeah. So
I even had a tie. I was exactly 500.
That's right. Just perfectly balanced. That's the thing. Just be one or the other. So like, don't
be me.
Don't be some on the fence guys. For context, I'm trying to keep all the previous years in here, but 2022, Easton and Al actually split. They tied for the wins with 32 across the season. And then yours truly had the losses with 36. So shout out to the Texans, the Bears, and the Patriots. I picked the 2 teams that had the most losses in each conference, which really helped me out. I think it was over by like week 15. So
yeah.
2023, we switched it up. Last year I had the 10th pick out of 10, so I had those bookends. This year I had the 2nd, so I didn't really know where I was going to go. But trying to run it back with the losers again, I'm just going to keep that every single year. So my teams ended up being the Texans and then came all the way back around to the Raiders and the Commanders. So 3 teams that we can all agree are going to be below 500, but will they be enough to lose them all? We'll see. So Tyler?
Yeah, I think I have the 7th pick. So we had 10 individuals in there. So I was I was iffy getting the 7th pick. I don't know if I was going to go winners or losers. And I had the Bills fall to me. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going winners. So I came back around, and apparently everybody wanted to do winners. And again, nobody wanted to root for bad football. So we had like 8 of the 10 of us pick kind of the upper teams, I guess, as you would say, projected. So I think it's just Jack and Walters fighting for the loser spot. So I'm like, hey, you got a 50-50 shot at half the pot. That sounds nice. But anyway, I got the Bills, and somehow the Chargers came back to me as well. So I was super excited about that. And then ran it out with the Browns as essentially one of the last 5 teams available. So I think I got a pretty good shot.
I like yours. Yours and like 2 others, I think, are the clear ones. There were some goofy picks for like the winning teams because I remember like the Lions went in the first round, and I was like, I don't know if you're going for wins or losses because they might be on the up and up this year, but they're not a top team that you would pick. And some people, I just don't know if they got the concept. So I think it's a very narrow race on the winners. But yeah, being second and being like, I hate having to do this because I don't know what everybody else is going to do. Last year when I went for the losses, I was one of 4 teams going for losses. So kind of the same thing. I'm just being the minority. And then this year I was like, okay, just to have at least 5 teams be going for the winners. And it was 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm like, I don't know what everybody's doing, but that's just dumb.
I don't either.
So I'll take it.
I didn't have a choice.
You don't pass on the Bills, but I assumed like once the top few would be gone, that instead of the Lions, people would start be going with like,
thank you,
Panthers.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
One bad. I don't know. You got to draft with tiers. So we will keep track of that week to week. My losing teams actually have bad matchups, and when I say bad, I mean they might accidentally win this week. So I'm not loving it, but we'll keep you posted for at least our scores or how kind of we're ranking throughout the year. So just something fun. Going into the next one that we literally just finished as we got on the air tonight, Guillotine League. So Tyler, I'll let you kind of tell people what that's all about.
Yeah, so if you never played in a Guillotine League, bigger league, so 18 teams, and your goal is don't be last. That's it. As long as you don't have the worst score of those 18 teams, you move on to the next week. The trick with that is if you take 18th, you're out. Your season is over. All of your players go back into a player pool, and then it's a free agent acquisition budget for the rest of the people. So if you got Christian McCaffrey and you somehow score 18th and you are out, Christian McCaffrey is now a free agent. And so you can go bid on him, etc. And you do all that. So then there's 17 teams in the league, 16 teams, 15, all the way down until the last person standing. So it's a lot of fun, nice and unique. Get some super teams when you get down to the end. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. For context, if you want to know how to take 3rd place, I'm your guy. Because the last 2 years I played, 3rd exactly. So I think last year I would say that I had the number 1 team going into it and then just flopped and blew it at the end. So that's the thing. Once you get to the top 5 or whatever, everybody has these super teams. You think of an 8-team league as bad, a 5-team league just looks absurd. So we just finished ours. Like I said, I ended up having the 18th pick out of 18, which I thought was going to be rough. But for context, I ended up going with Josh Allen and Derrick Henry first, which say what you want about taking a quarterback early. In these leagues, you're just trying to have your baseline be good early on. So that's kind of the strategy of like, I just don't want to be last. I don't care if I score 100. I just need to score 5 points more than the next guy. So you're just all about surviving early on. I think the only other like draft tip I would have for you, or just league tip in general, is don't spend all your money early on. If you see that first guy, like CMC, like Tyler talked about, everybody's going to be dropping money for him. And the thing is, you're probably going to have a chance to bid on CMC 3-4 more times the rest of the year. He's going to come up as the new people that have him lose. And if you get to the end of the season, or if you even get to the top 8 and all of your fab is gone, you can do like the other teams can do what I did last year, where I'm just like, let's see, everybody here has 100 or less, except this guy has 125, 126, and I guarantee I get whoever I want. So you're not playing to survive longer, even though it's just fun to be active in it. You're playing to win the whole thing. So like, as long as you can go without spending money or spending minimal money and getting wide receiver 4s instead of the new flashy wide receiver 2, that's how you survive. So
yeah, it's super fun to be to the Final Four, but fourth doesn't get you any money typically. So, and if you're screwed, that it is what it is. I've been Bubble Boy once, and I think I split and took second once. So I mean, I've truly always been toward the end of it. If I just save a little bit more money, usually I miss out on one of the receivers. But I did similar to Jack. I solidified my floor. I got Lamar Jackson. I got Saquon Barkley. I got Aaron Jones, and then I kind of punted receiver. So I got some safe guys, Tyler Lockett's of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So I can survive for enough time until I can build up my wide receiver pool and go from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not feeling great about my wide receivers. I went tight end before
Mine
I
are terrible.
Receivers, so I mean, we'll see. But just got to survive week 1. So hopefully we can keep talking about it, because it's more fun when we're both active.
Hopefully.
All right, another one. Best ball. We're both in this league this year. Tyler, I believe you joined this year for the first time.
I did.
Right?
I did.
Okay.
I honestly don't know my team. I don't even remember my team already.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But essentially, best ball, it's really nice for the casual fan, because what you do is you do the best part where you draft, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about trades. You don't have to worry about waiver wire, adding, dropping guys. You don't even have to worry about who to start. It's just, you got 3 quarterbacks on your team. Which quarterback scored the most points? Cool, they're in your starting lineup now. And you do that for every starting position. So your best, most optimal lineup is your lineup for that week. It's just my best versus your best, who had the full team. So you never run into that issue of like, oh my God, if I would have known that Tutu Atwell was going to get 2 touchdowns this week, I would have started him, but he's on my bench. He's in. So we're both in that one. It's still head-to-head. I remembered I went...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think that's the league I have Jonathan Taylor, so it's probably not going to be looking great, if I remember correctly. But I went 3 quarterbacks like late, so I could load up on everything else, and usually that's kind of the strategy that works. So we'll cover it as our teams are actually playing week 1 and figure out who we have.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's been a hot minute. We've done four drafts here in the last like 48 hours. I'm like, I don't remember.
I don't know who I have. I need to figure out who I have. It was draft weekend,
as everyone knows.
Yeah, I need to figure out who I have like on more than one team, and then those will be my go-tos.
Agreed.
And then the last unique one, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but after kind of our fun with having a DFS segment in the betting corner last year, we created a DFS league, which I didn't think it was going to get off the ground, but we are up to, I think, 17 teams that are either in or joining as of now. We're trying to get to 20 ideally by Sunday, but as many people as want to join as they can. So if you're hearing this and you haven't heard about it yet, if I didn't somehow text and bug you, you can still join. It's on DraftKings. It's open to the public. We're doing a $5 entry fee. Once we get a full head count of week 1, I'm going to ask if we want to do more than that, but $5 just for the casual fans to check it out. For those of you that don't know what DFS is you basically redraft a team each week with a budget. So you get $50,000, and every player based on their better or worse matchups is rated at different amounts of money, and you just build your team however you want. So if you want to go get that $10,000 top-end quarterback, you're going to fill your lineup with a bunch of cheaper guys. If you want to just be balanced throughout the entire position spots, you can do that as well. So kind of makes it fun so that if you, for example, drafted Cooper Kupp 2 weeks ago in the first round, your season isn't ruined. That's essentially how it is. So let us know if you're interested. Feel free to message either one of us. It's literally, if you have friends, family as well, we're open to getting it as big as we can. So we'll be discussing at least my picks for the week a little bit later, but that's another one we're going to be following and trying to get some fans going on. So sponsored by the Victorious Pod. Now, finally, we got into the moment that all 12 people have been waiting for. We're going to do a quick little summary of our home league, which literally just drafted last night. So Tyler's going to put up pictures of each person's team, and we're just going to basically give like quick 10-15 seconds of what we thought, and then maybe give like a favorite pick or at least favorite pick value wise. So not crazy roster baiting, so to speak, but at least to kind of give you guys some context of a real league and what teams rounded out at. So, Tyler, I'll let you do the first one.
Yeah, so first one, we're going to kick it off with Cassie's team. So Cassie going right off the top, started off nice and risky with the quarterback in Burrow, Saquon, Najee, Diggs, McLaurin, Pitts, Brandon Cooks, Jamal Williams. So our league is unique. We added a second flex spot, so a little bit deeper rosters, harder to hide people, need that depth to be successful. Obviously, Cassie, great start with Saquon. Her receivers, or her running backs, obviously going to be solid. McLaurin obviously hurts if he is going to be injured and out week 1. Burrow, obviously, same thing, kind of iffy. Kyle Pitts, you never really know. So she's looking okay. A lot of it is if her team can come back and be healthy, and Kyle Pitts can decide he's a person, she could do okay. So my guess is kind of a middle of the pack finish.
Yeah, my only thing I didn't love was, especially like you said, adding that second flex. I would say like my judgy pick for her was taking Kirk Cousins, a backup quarterback, late. I get it with Burrow and the question mark on the injuries, but I think she just could have used more depth. I mean, like you said, Terry McLaurin's question marks, and then Brandon Cooks is your first flex option. I just would have liked more depth on the bench. So love your running backs. All three could be really, really interesting. Pitts is the home run swing and Burrow is Burrow, but wide receivers across the board scare me a lot for her. So I'm kind of middle of the pack for Cassie, like a C plus.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was at. Yeah, middle of the pack, kind of C plus-ish.
All right.
Going over to Joshy Poo.
Josh. Team, they, them. Oh, man. I'm just seeing these people's team names for the first time.
Yeah, that's excellent. Solid. Go ahead.
Josh basically went with what I was planning on doing, and we'll see what happened with mine in a second. But Geno Smith is my target for any kind of late quarterback picks. I think he's super underrated and did great. So getting Geno Smith allows you to kind of round out your team more. Aaron Jones, no surprise, he took a Packer. Dameon Pierce, obviously, I'm not high on, but you can see that he went really, really well on the wide receivers here. So between Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, a great way to start your team there. So I really like his core. I don't know that any one of them strikes fear into me beyond Devontae, but I think it's a very, very balanced team. And like I said, it's kind of what allows you to do that with Geno. So that'd be my way to go. Congratulations pick is getting Geno as late as you did.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like you said, I think balance is the number one thing. I mean, I know I'm a Dameon Pierce hater, but it seems like we might be wrong on that one. He's just going to keep getting the volume. Aaron Jones is perennial top 14 guy. Can't hate it. Two amazing receivers in Devontae and CeeDee. Evan Ingram got paid, so if his flexes can hit Pacheco and Brandon Ayuk, and you're sitting pretty. So I feel kind of a top half and in a playoff position. So I'm going to say he ends up taking fourth-ish, something around there.
I go a B plus just because I think he got value in places, and then Pacheco feels the same way to me as Pierce, where it's I don't like either of them, but I think I might just be wrong, and they'll be good enough. So
yep, exactly. Number 2, where's Jafe?
So Jay's an F. Moving on.
Yeah, don't even load the roster.
See, ESPN doesn't even want to show your team. Look at that. Bass to mouth. I love that I'm reacting to these team names live because I actually haven't seen most of them.
Yeah.
I'll let you can do the 2 cents on Jay. We'll just flip back and forth.
Yeah, I think for Jay, I mean, the first thing that's tough is having Trevor Lawrence and ETN on the same team. You're kind of limiting yourself right away, right there. I know Travis Etienne can catch passes and is very good at it, but you still kind of limit your ceiling right there. Cam Akers, if he is going to be that volume guy, great. But if he continues to throw punches in practice and gets thrown out and back in the doghouse, it's going to be real iffy real fast. Obviously, got to love JJ, got to love DK. But again, Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson on the same team. It's a lot of reliance on individual teams when those individuals are competing for targets. Most people go with the stack, their QB and their receiver, not their QB and their running back, and not two receiving options that are fighting for those targets. Then AJ Dillon and Sky Moore as a flex is kind of tough as well. So I'm feeling kind of a back end finish for Jay. I'm kind of 9th, 10th, 11th. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, beyond the stacks like you talked about, because I remember seeing that during the draft where I was just who takes a quarterback running back stack? Beyond that, I think this team is a good example of what your team looks like when you go quarterback and tight end relatively early. Neither Trevor or TJ are necessarily like early round picks, but usually you try to go one or the other, if at all. Sometimes you can do both late, but he went both of them early, and essentially all that does is that leaves both of your flexes right now as not even like starters on their own team. So AJ Dillon and Sky Moore, solid depth and bench pieces, but like I don't love having them as my team in a 2-flex league. So hopefully the quarterback tight end holds that off for you. And I think he'll have a decent floor because somebody's going to score on both of those Jaguars and Vikings games, but
yeah,
I'm not loving it.
Yeah. Moving over to the newcomer.
Welcome to the league.
Welcome to the league, Mr. Glick.
Too fast, too furious. Yes, sir. Big fan of the team name already.
Fantastic.
Glick went very on brand with like a lot of sexy picks and like
he did.
Spicy guys, like the shiny new toys, so to speak. I didn't realize that Glick got Olave. I thought Jordan did. So having him get basically all these guys that have been talked about at different points in the offseason of hype between Jahmyr Gibbs, Miles Sanders. Sanders' health issue worries me a little bit right now, but both of them have been big hype guys. Tyreek is Tyreek, and Olave is like Mr. Breakout for 2023. So between all of them, love that. I think Antonio Gibson's talked about it's whether him or Brian Robinson debate, and then Hopkins. I know Glick is a big Hopkins guy, so that doesn't surprise me. I really like his team across the board. I think it's very, very solid. And then getting like Jerry Jeudy and Quentin Johnson on the bench along with A-Chain, like he kind of went a lot of rookies just for like dart throws. I think this team is one that has a solid starting lineup, but then also has some dart throws that could actually pan out rather than picking the Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods of the world that are just going to get you 6 points. Like his guys can either blow up or they can just be cut. So I'm a big fan of his draft. I'd say he's my favorite of the 4 so far.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Favorite of the 4 so far as well. Because, the starting lineup looks nasty. I mean, you certainly got to love that too. I think exactly like you said, the biggest thing for his team is going to be that depth. If somebody goes down on the front end and those guys on his bench don't pan out and Jerry Jeudy's out a little bit longer, Quentin Johnson becomes just a big play guy. A-Chain can't overtake Mostert and Jeff Wilson comes back. I mean, that depth starts to take a hit really quick in a league where you got to start 2 flexes. So I think that's his main concern. But I think as long as everybody stays healthy, which again, that's what we're all trying to do, we got a playoff team.
Yeah, you know my love for Tua, so I would say like assuming Tua stays healthy, this is a top 3 team. But if it doesn't, then it's going to kind of fall apart.
All right. Where is Ryan?
Ryan? No way he has a team name. There's no chance that he's changed it.
No, 0.0% chance.
Can we make a rule for next year where if you don't change your team name, you lose like a point every week it hasn't been changed? Makes me angry. Ryan went Mr. High Testosterone with Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs as the running backs. So that's terrifying. That makes me feel really good for his team, which I wasn't expecting. But then he did what just apparently everybody's doing this year, where I think everybody heard about stacking, and then they just didn't bother to read the definition, because he went Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. Not the ideal thing. Both great picks, but usually when I take one of them early, like for example, I remember in the draft taking James Conner, and then I was like, okay, Hollywood Brown's off the board for me. Like, I know it's not the same high-level caliber, but, like, you just don't look at teammates because one's going to score and one's not. You're always disappointed. So that, to me, is the biggest head-scratcher. I like the picks, but and he had Njoku. I don't see what you're doing going all in on the Browns, personally. So
Yeah, 100%. You limit that. You limit your upside, like we talked about. Your goal is to inject variance into your lineup. You want to have the most possible outcomes and the highest possible scores, and you reduce that variance when you have the exact same individuals on the team, because only one person can touch the ball. There's only one football on the field. So unless it's a quarterback to one of your main receivers, that's the only way you can score kind of double the points. So I think that's the toughest one. And again, he's got kind of big play guys. Mike Williams has weeks where he's going to completely disappear. We'll see what happens with Rashad White. He kind of supplemented with Deion Jackson for a little bit of help. But yeah, the all in on the Cleveland Browns is tough. So you better hope Deshaun Watson figures it out. Otherwise, it's going to be a long one for you, Rye. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he'll end up being like a borderline playoff team. So I'd do like a B-, kind of 6th, 7th. He'll be fighting like the last couple of weeks of the year.
I'm definitely going with closer to like a straight C for me, just because again with all the same people, there's not a lot of depth. I guess he could plug Sutton in right away, so that could be helpful for him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I see kind of edge of the playoff team, but missing the playoff type team.
Mm-hmm. Going to Ben?
Benjamin, yep.
All right, Ben's.
Oh, baby.
Kenneth the Meneth.
That's so good.
Yeah, Ben made the tough decision at 101 going CMC over Justin Jefferson. I like it, personally.
I do too.
Kenneth Walker scares me, but that's also because I'm a big Charbonnet guy, and Walker missing a lot of the preseason snaps with injury. I mean, I don't love him as your RB2, but again, same kind of thing. You went tier 2 wide receivers with Devontae and T. Higgins, so that feels really, really good. I'm not sold on DJ Moore. I'm a big out on him. So him plus Kittle's constant injuries. I love Kittle, but I don't love him where he was going this year. And then Deshaun Watson, I feel like he took him earlier than I was expecting. So unless he does a big bounce back, I don't love that pick. I think I like Ben's team a lot overall, because how can you hate CMC and then the two young receivers? But beyond that, I don't love anybody on his bench. I think the Anthony Richardson pick, while I love the pick in general, was kind of a head scratcher, because if you were going to take him, why even bother with Watson? Because I don't know. So I'm not in love with most of the bench. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, like you said, I like the starting lineup, and the depth is where it gets hard. And I think that's where a lot of these teams run into issues, and even mine personally as well, which we'll get to. But gotta love the running backs. It's great. I mean, obviously, we'll see what Sharp comes, but it seems like Kenneth Walker's the dude. So they continue to say that. So if he works out, it's obviously going to be great. If Deshaun Watson returns to form, then I think he's going to be just fine. Devonta Smith is a bona fide number 2 stud. So if he's going to finish in kind of that top 14 to 17 wide receiver range again, then he's going to be just fine. T. Higgins is going to get his. So I think he's pretty borderline. I think he's probably closer to like 7th-ish overall. I feel like he finishes right in the middle, but I bet Ben, he's pretty savvy. So I just kind of throughout the season. So I give him a playoff spot as well.
I'll be the first, I guess, discrepancy between the two of us, and I'll actually be slightly higher on him. I feel like he'll end up being kind of like that 4th-ish area, just because I really like the starting lineup, but it's all going to come down to Kittle's health and Deshaun Watson, whether he still has it. So my take is that Ben just seems to always find a way to be one of the top third teams.
That's what I mean.
So
yeah, I feel like he's always savvy enough, and he'll get into the playoffs. When to A Freezy.
Alrighty then. We know he's going to have a great team name. He never disappoints. So Laporta, a classic. That's I told him that during the draft, where I was like, I love the Sam Laporta late pick, because he was my spicy, like, Laporta's going to randomly score a bunch of touchdowns. And at that late stage in the draft, no tight end is a sure thing, and none of them really get yards. So just give me the one that doesn't have any competition and can just score in the red zone. So I love that. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's a league winner this year that everybody's super high on. I am scared of his running backs, because I'm lower on Alexander Madison, and then Javonte I think is just going to take a while, but his wide receivers more than make up for that. Even Deontay as his third is like super solid floor, and the others are going to be an upside. So I really like his team. I think Al's going to have some weeks where he just is the high scorer of the entire league pretty consistently, and then other ones he'll kind of settle down. So it's going to be very spiky, but
yes, agreed. He's going to go as his running backs go, because Lamar's going to get his, Garrett's going to get his, AJ Brown's going to get his. He might have to go to the waiver wire pretty consistently with Laporta. I'm very curious to see what they do. This could be the year that rookie tight ends break the mold, but typically you haven't been able to rely on them. So if you're not able to rely on Laporta and you got to go stream every single week, it's no fun. It really, really isn't. So that could get interesting. But if Laporta hits, it makes the team look even better. But his wide receivers are going to carry him, especially now in a half PPR league, for a lot of the weeks.
Quick last note for him. I will say shout out, because I love this draft strategy of, after you get your like solid core intact, just going all rookies for the most part. He has 4 rookies that I can just see even. So it's like same kind of thing. I've always been a big believer of like later picks. Get a guy that you're okay dropping if it just is clear the plan isn't for them by week 3 or 4. Not rolling with a veteran that's going to only get you 10 max and 2 at least. So I'm a big fan of all those.
Yep. Moving on to J-Wow.
Going to Jordan. This is the toughest team to project for me, so I'll let you start.
Yes. Yeah. JWoww is either going to really, really win this year or really, really lose this year. And as you can see, as who he's got. So Josh Allen, obviously amazing. But then he's got Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor. So you look at his receivers and you're like, this man got Jamar and Waddle and Christian Watson and Drake London. I mean, obviously Drake has the potential upside there. So those receivers are amazing. But then the running backs, he's got Brees, he's got Jonathan Taylor, and he's got Tank. That's it. That's all the running backs. I guess he got Jeff Wilson as well at the end. But I mean, 2 of those running backs aren't going to play for the first 4 weeks, maybe more. And so then he's going to rely on Tank as a starter. So if Jordan can survive and all of these players come back to health, his team is going to be a nasty. He's going to be super good. It's just a matter of if he can survive and everybody comes back to health and plays, his team's going to be ridiculous. But that's the key. That's going to be the hard piece: is can you survive long enough, and will they come back?
Yeah, and I asked him this like after the draft too, where I was like, if both of your flexes if you had good enough receivers to have 2 and then 2 of them be flexes too, why aren't you just taking more shots on running back? Like, why would you not back up guys to see if you could piece together a running back until Brees is full strength or until Jonathan Taylor comes back? So that'd be my only critique of him, is that he just didn't really like draft positional need accordingly at all. I get doing best player available, but I feel like once you had 4 stud receivers, you didn't really need Elijah Moore as opposed to a running back depth piece, because starting Tank Bigsby, who isn't even the starter on his own team, scares me. You can be all on him versus the ETN debate, but that scares me. So beyond that, I think his team's going to be really good, and I think if I was going to guess one way or the other, the coin will flip up, and he will be a playoff team, but it could also be a house of cards that falls apart.
Yes, correct. Mr. Walters.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he won't win his 3rd championship in 4 years. Orange Herbert is a good name.
That is a good name.
I'm sad I didn't think about it for Justin Herbert. Huh. All right. Justin Fields, probably my favorite value pick in quarterbacks this year. I would take him at his ADP over the 4 to 5 quarterbacks above him, so I love that. Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon, you can't go wrong. I've always been higher on Mixon than most people. The wide receivers scare me a little bit because I love Hollywood Brown, but I don't know that I would want to rely on him as my 2. He feels like a better flex guy to me. But then having Christian Kirk seems like a very safe backup, and I'm big on Khalil Herbert at ADP this year too. So Walter's entire lineup is very, very solid and actually looks really good on paper to me. So I'm not loving that, but his bench so-so. I don't think you're going to need a ton of depth backup with that starting lineup, but probably would have made some other picks than some of those bench guys. But the starters might be my favorite overall head-to-head on paper.
Yeah, certainly the starters look absolutely ridiculous. You got to love the floor of Fields, floor of Derrick Henry, floor of Joe Mixon. Talk about guys who are just literally all going to get 300-plus touches, and Justin Fields is going to run for 1,000 yards himself. So an amazing floor. Obviously, the biggest thing is if Debo bounces back to how he was prior to last year and stays healthy, it's going to look great. But if he goes shit Debo or gets hurt again like he always does, then it's those receivers are going to fall apart pretty quickly. So Khalil Herbert, if he can retain that starting role, because Donta Foreman is still kind of mixing in with the ones, so it could be interesting. But I certainly like the floor, and if Mark Andrews, again, as we've seen, he's got to come back and be fully healthy as well, because that was a huge draft cost for him as well. But Walters' team looks really good, as much as I don't want to say that.
Yeah, Walters and Glick, I think, are my 2 favorites.
Mr. Foster, where are you?
Oh, this is a perfect time. Foster and me back to back. We're going to talk about Foster first, and then I have a question for you once we get to me.
Okay.
All right. So also, just like Ryan, team name that hasn't been changed in years. Jalen Hurts, obviously great. Getting him in the 3rd.
He can keep his, though.
Yeah, that's true.
He at least
drafted the player accordingly. Having the baseline of Hurts and Eckler is pretty solid. Also, he gets one of our favorite picks this year in Darren Waller. Montgomery feels like a solid, like low floor, low ceiling, or high floor, low ceiling RB2. Cooper Kupp's going to basically be what his year comes down to, because he got him in the late 2nd, and we just don't know what to expect. Same thing, I'm very out on Calvin Ridley for ADP. He could be great, but I don't know that I love the Cooper Kupp and Calvin Ridley because they're both such big question marks. And then your 3rd option is Gabe Davis. So I think his wide receivers are really going to hurt him. I have Kadarius Toney on the bench, who doesn't have any guarantee. Adam Thielen's your 4th, 5th wide receiver. Like, just everything else I love except wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. His wide receivers are tough. So if he somehow finds one and or Cooper Kupp comes back healthier and sooner, then it's going to be absolutely fine for him. But if Ridley flames out, it's going to be tough because the rest of that depth is non-existent for you. So Foster, you better hope Cooper Kupp does great because otherwise you're going to have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Going into mine, I'm going to let you talk about mine and I'll talk about yours just so we don't say why our teams are our favorites.
Mm-hmm. But my team is my favorite.
I'm kicking my ass.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind. Thanks for bringing that up. I forgot. I didn't
Tyler,
forget.
what's that team name mean? I don't understand.
I don't know. He's got a dog with a monocle.
When you're older, kids. All right, go ahead.
So
be gentle.
So looking at your team, just knowing again where you were in the draft, having Justin Herbert fall to you where he did was certainly nice. I know neither of us were looking to go early quarterback, top quarterback essentially early in the draft, but getting Bijan in the first and Amon-Ra in the second, certainly an amazing start, and was what I said on a previous podcast would be my ideal start. So obviously I love that. To then also add on Ramondre and Justin Herbert is great. In a half PPR, add on the volume of Godwin. James Conner I think is going to be better than most people think. Raheem Mostert, nice stab, gets you some early value early in the season. So absolutely love the starters, and the depth is there as well. Jahan Dotson, not even a flex starter for you, which is amazing because if McLaurin sucks, which I feel like that turf toe is going to continue to flare up on him, you've got an immediate piece there if Michael Pittman somehow figures it out. Marvin Mims stab, Michael Wilson stab. So, I like it. You got a solid starting lineup. Kincaid, if he figures it out, you're going to look really good. Otherwise, you're just going to stream a tight end. So,
right.
There's not a whole lot of holes I can poke, unfortunately, because I would love to say your team sucks.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think mine will basically be of Kincaid because he's being projected low in like the meaningless tight end tier. But if he comes out and is actually used like a slot instead of a tight end like they're talking about, I think that could be a league winner for me. So getting him as late as I did and punting on tight end was great. Like you said, I think the biggest thing for me was just taking what the draft gave me because I did not plan on taking a quarterback early. I was going to go for the Anthony Richardson combo with like Geno Smith or Tua later. And I was like, I don't like any of the other guys here. I've got 5 running back wide receivers. I guess I'll take Herbert. So it just kind of seemed like a free layup. And the only one you basically didn't mention in my entire lineup a ton, but James Conner, I love this year.
Oh yeah, I said Conner.
Oh, I missed it. My bad. I think he's great for like a 5th round kind of pick, just because I think he's done significantly better in games where Kyler isn't active, which is crazy. So
yes,
I think they're just going to run him into the ground. So my entire team was basically not guys I had on my list whatsoever or expected to be there, but I ended up liking my team a lot more than I thought. So there weren't a ton of rounds where I was like, crap, I just missed on this guy and now I'm forced to like panic pick a guy. I just was like, cool, I love this guy, done. So my only thing I guess is wide receiver, because I don't think Godwin feels like a great wide receiver too, but having Dotson be like the mirror image of all or nothing upside swing feels fun. So we'll see what happens. It's not a team I ever thought on paper, but I loved Amon-Ra, Matthew Berry's ride or die falling in the 2nd round.
Yes. Yeah, no question.
All right. Now it's my turn.
All right, Jack.
What's your team name?
Get him. In the club, Holland. AZZ.
There's why I say it live. Oh, man.
So good. That's clever.
Tyler,
it's the most clever I've ever been.
Tyler did the whole make sure you don't take any of the onesie positions early, and he said, I'll take them both early and show you. So the Mahomes-Kelsey stack obviously is money, and I think your baseline is going to be crazy. Assuming Kelsey isn't, out, because who knows. I would assume James Cook is more of your RB2 than P. Ryan, just looking at that. So that deceives me at first, because I think James Cook's a solid RB2 based on how you went with the draft. Mike Evans is probably the one I'm lowest on in your entire lineup. I like Tyler Lockett more than him, just safety-wise, to start the year. So Mike Evans scares me, because I think this new look Bucs with Baker and a terrible offensive line is going to favor Chris Godwin a lot more than Mike Evans is the only tough part. So he'd be my only worry, but I love Tony Pollard. When it got to you and me back-to-back, I was like, I'm getting Tony Pollard or Amon-Ra, and I was so excited. So huge on him this year. I think your running backs are going to be great because we both love James Cook as the upside guy. And then you've got a lot of solid dart throws on the bench. I talked about Van Jefferson a ton. You've talked about Zay Flowers a bunch. I don't know that I love the running back depth, but I think at that point, like Devin Singletary can be a plug and play if you need to. And hopefully P. Ryan gets enough work early on that allows you some waivers to figure stuff out. So I think assuming Kelsey plays, it's a probably pretty safe playoff team just because of that baseline with those two. But if Kelsey misses for some reason, obviously you're going to struggle because who wouldn't without a first round pick? But you got enough. You got enough other consistency. Like Pollard's going to get all the work. James Cook has the potential to blow up, and then Keenan Allen is a PPR monster. So I like it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. Like I said, I've literally never once in a mock went to onesie positions, but they both fell to me. Like I got Patrick Mahomes in the middle of the third round. I just really wasn't expecting that at all. So took Kelsey, and then I'm like, Mahomes being the exact one to fall to me versus like a Josh Allen or a Jalen Hurts, I probably would have potentially skipped over him. But I'm like, in a half PPR, I'll take the stack with a little bit of reception upside. So I feel like a very solid playoff team, especially if Travis Kelce doesn't get hurt. But such is life, and if he comes back just fine, I feel like I've got a chance to challenge for kind of a top 3-ish. And so I really like it. I think the Broncos will be cognizant and slow in bringing Javonte along, and they've said P. Ryan is they're going to keep it closer to like a split backfield. Who knows how true that is, but if it is, then that's great. But if not, I have plenty of receivers on the bench with the Zay Flowers, Jacoby Myers type of PPR machines, Van Jefferson early in the year to return me some value if he doesn't work out or after a few weeks. So I felt pretty good about it. I didn't come out of it feeling beyond, like you said, kind of the running back depth.
Yep. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yay, we did it. Draft grades. There you go, everybody. You heard us talk about your teams for way too long.
Way too long.
We're never doing that
But
again.
You're welcome.
The good news is next week we are scrapping that segment and bringing back our random ass 4 horseman draft of different topics. So if you have anything goofy, listen to ours from last year. But if you have any goofy topics you want us to draft, let us know. I had another segment in here briefly on our dynasty trades. I'm not going to bother with a lot of analysis if you just want to give like a quick thought on any big ones, but I'm just going to rattle off these like 6 or 7 because some are pretty small. So really quick shout out to our Password Taco Dynasty League. Last trades over the last 2 months. Glick traded Tyler Algier in a 2023 third to Connor for a 2023 second. Cool. Glick traded AJ Dillon and Sky Moore and a 2025 second to Josh for DeAndre Hopkins and Dak Prescott and a 23 second. Long story short, makes sense for Glick in a win now mode that's going to age out in a couple of years. Hopkins is worth that little package, and it makes sense for Josh because he's got some pieces. Mac traded Rashad White and a 24 first and a 24 third to Connor for Derrick Henry and a 24 second and a 24 third. So just that. Thanks, Connor. Appreciate you.
Yeah, really, super great.
I get it because Derrick Henry probably isn't worth the value of a first right now in Dynasty in a vacuum, but like don't maybe give the defending champ.
He is for the winner.
Henry.
Yeah,
right.
He is for the Dynasty winner who's trying to win back-to-back and win the Dynasty pot, believe it or not.
Stupid. I finally got back in on the trade action because I had to watch 3 whole trades take place without me being involved, and I couldn't have that. So I traded Quentin Johnston fresh off of drafting him at 105 or 105 to Jordan 105. straight up for Stephon Diggs. So love that one. That would
surprise me.
I love that one for me, but also Jordan A hates Diggs and B doesn't. He's basing Diggs being on like the 2 years left, and I'm basically saying if he gets anything above 2 years, I'll be happy. So I also traded Elijah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think the main thing for me and why I thought it was interesting from Jordan was everything contrary to that had been him trading into win now mode. He traded for Travis Kelce. He traded me for Nick Chubb earlier in the season. Not that Nick Chubb is as old, but Travis Kelce and blah, blah, blah. And so his team felt more like I'm going to go try to win. And for me, Stephon Diggs tells me I'm trying to win right now, not Quentin Johnson. So and he has great receivers as well. He's got Waddle and he's got Olave. I think he's got them both. So having Diggs and having Olave and Waddle as your flex receiver felt amazing. So I thought it was interesting. I get trying to get younger as well. But for me, it felt like his team was in much more like I can actually go win this right now with the team that I have before that trade. But that's just me.
Yeah. it's one of those that it makes sense on paper other than the context thing. Like both of us are contenders, so I wouldn't give a piece to another contender, but it wasn't a bad trade for you value wise. So
right.
I then also traded Elijah Moore and a 2026 third to Jordan for his 2024 first, so next year's. I then immediately traded that 2024 first away, plus a fourth round pick and Elijah Mitchell to Nick for Tony Pollard, which that was like early on in the offseason before the Pollard hype really took off. And now it's like he's locked in as a running back one. So it's worked out well for me, but obviously Nick's in rebuild and just needs draft capital and young dart throws. So lastly, Nick traded Kirk Cousins, Alvin Kamara, and Elijah Mitchell to Glick for Kenny Gainwell, CJ Stroud, and a 24 fourth. Ugh. But I don't know that I love any of the picks in this deal. Nick needed a quarterback, so I get Stroud for the future. Kenny Gainwell's a good dart throw. He didn't need Cousins. I guess I would rather have Stroud than Cousins if I was rebuilding. So it's mainly just Alvin Kamara here, I guess. And that's about it. Which he might be
Kamara for a 24. Kamara for a 24 fourth.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah. And then lastly, Nick traded DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin to Nate for a 24 first, which was Foster's for context, and a 25 first, which was Nate's, and a 26 second for Nate, which was Nate's. So Nick basically just going all draft picks. I don't hate that because I don't think DJ Moore or Terry were going to move the needle for you anyway. So load up, get the half of the first round like I did last year. It's a great time. Mm-hmm. All right. We won't cover injuries until injuries happen after week one, unfortunately. And then we finally get to the
Kelsey. I'm kidding.
We finally
Please be healthy, Travis. Betting. I love you.
He heard this now. Made it to the betting corner. So, Tyler, I don't know if you have any quick bets or lines of the week. I know a lot haven't come out yet, but
yeah. I mean, obviously the spreads and totals and things like that are up. Kind of the number one thing for week one is they tend to be the sharpest lines because you have the most. Are you going to make it?
Yeah, I'm just getting a lot of hair on my chest right now. That whiskey really hit at the end.
Open up the air. No. The week one lines tend to be those sharpest lines, and it would make sense. You have the most information. You have all of the off season, and so whatever you want to call it, sharp line doesn't mean it's the correct line, but it just means they're probably the most balanced. They're not going to move kind of one way or the other. They're very set on what the smartest people in the industry think they should be. So they're very hard to beat, meaning if there was value ever, it's probably gone. You had to get it early in the season, and right now they're pretty locked in. So kind of the best time to usually jump on is week two, kind of overreaction week, right? There's upsets or whatever. So they're going to move based on what everybody saw from real NFL football. We haven't seen any of that now. So I kind of tend to stay away from week one for that, unless I'm going to play like teasers or anything like that. So the main thing I'm doing, kind of like I talked about earlier, is usually I'm looking for high total games, and I'm playing a lot of unders for player props, which again is not fun to root for ugly football, but that's tend to be what happens in week one. It is what it is. Everyone's figuring it out. New kinks. I'm usually looking for like new coaches and new systems and a new quarterback and a rookie quarterback and things like that, and trying to play those unders for teams. So that's kind of how it goes for me. A couple season-long ones if you just want to wet your beak a little bit. Jack and I were talking about a little earlier, and I got him addicted, so it's a lot of fun. One of the books that I had, he's already got the itches. One of the books that I hadn't taken down Cooper Kupp's season-long receptions, and it was at 106 and a half for the over-under. So I hopped on there and made sure I got us in on the under for that for the season-long. It's a lingering injury. Feel good about that. Then looked at a couple other ones. Deontay Johnson, over 82.5 receptions for the year. He's kind of averaged anywhere between 145 to 167 targets. Average catch rate on his career is around 61%. Last year was the worst at 58.5%. So if you just do quick math and projections, he's hitting this if he gets anything above 140 targets. Simple math. If you think he's going to get 140 targets on 58.5% receiving, he's going to get 83 targets. Yeah. Simple that. So we hit that one. We also did Darren Waller. So again, this one's predicated on health, which any of these are, but the transition to New York, his reception total is only at 60.5. So, I mean, talk about, again, another guy who's going to get 100 targets. You'll need him to catch 60% of those targets, who's going to be a number one option in the offense and playing against linebackers. Again, in the middle with tight end. Yes, if you've heard anything from camp, he's just mossing people. He's just making people look silly. So 60.5 felt good. So we played the over on that one. And then our last one that we really liked, the line just kind of felt off from everybody, and I get all the hype. Justin Fields over rushing yards was, hard to say only because obviously it's a massive number, but it was at 800.5, so 800.5. And so most projections we've seen is anywhere between like 910 to like 1,000, like maybe even 1,100. So getting the over at 800.5 felt really good. So those are kind of our four main ones. Cooper Kupp under 106.5 receptions, Deontay Johnson over 82.5, Waller over 60.5, and Justin Fields over 800.5 rushing yards.
I like it. All right, going into the second part of the betting corner, which is my DFS segment. So, as I mentioned before, we're doing our own DFS challenge this year for the podcast. So, anybody who wants to hop into this, feel free. It's kind of more conducive to casual players. But for context, I like to think that I know what I'm doing when it comes to DFS. I'm not as much of the betting guy. That's more Tyler's wheelhouse. But DFS, I've done pretty good historically. Last 2 years, we've been in one of Garlic, friend of the show's big ones that's been 20 plus people. The first year they did it, I won the whole thing outright. And then last year I took second based on the scoring, where I think it was best 10 scores, and I would have won if it was best 5, best 15, best entire season, just not best 10. So first and second, not too bad. So for this one, basically week to week, I'm just going to give you guys essentially my picks, assuming I don't tinker with it throughout the week, but who I have in my lineup right now. So just kind of free to play against me and look at my cheat sheet essentially. So who I've got this week, and it's on DraftKings. I know other sites have different values, but DraftKings gives us a $50,000 budget. So starting off here, real cheap, I got my swimming upstream guy, Sam Howell, 4,900 versus the Cardinals. There were like 20 quarterbacks above him, and he just seems so cheap that I'm like, he's not going to win me the week. I think baseline-wise with rushing and just the Cardinals, they're probably going to score 3 to 4 times, I would say, and if 2 of those go to him, I'm going to feel good. So running back wise, I went Aaron Jones versus the Bears because I think Jordan Love's inaugural full season, I think they're going to rely more on the run game and get him comfortable. Aaron Jones has historically done great against the Bears, and it's PPR too, so that never hurts. And then my running back 2, Raheem Mostert, who, like Tyler kind of talked about before, I think he's going to be big to start out the year just because there's nobody else left. So Dolphins, he always is a threat to take to the house. They're against the Chargers, and he's only 5,400, so I like that value. 3 starting wide receivers. I went Jahan Dotson, most importantly for the stack with Sam Howell, but Jahan Dotson, having Terry McLaurin probably be out, is going to be a big help, and he's only at 5,000, so that seems very cheap versus the Cardinals defense that can't stop anybody. Number 2, I went for more safety with Tyler Lockett, who not a big fan of season long, but early on, especially with JSN likely not playing, Tyler Lockett should just be like a locked and loaded top 15 wide receiver. He's versus the Rams, so I mean, they moved on from Jalen Ramsey. They don't really have anybody else in the secondary to stop him. And then number 3, Chris Olave, 6,500, so slightly cheaper than Tyler Lockett. I just think he's going to be a target monster, so I kind of want 3 guys that should get a lot of action, a lot of looks. Chris Olave is against the Titans, so that feels like pretty good value for again, top 15-ish wide receiver. Tight end, I kind of went sneaky cheap. Tyler Higbee, 4,800. Again, just playing injuries here with Cooper Kupp being out. Tyler Higbee has always been Matthew Stafford's guy. So him versus Seattle, they're not really good in the linebacker area. I think Tyler Higbee will probably get a lot of short targets. He's not going to do a lot of yardage, but if I can get 5, 6, 7 catches, it's going to be a good day. Flex, technically my most expensive wide receiver. Again, the theme of targets. Keenan Allen versus the Dolphins, so kind of going the opposite end of Mostert. But Keenan Allen's at 7,300, so that didn't seem too bad. I think they're going to go slow with Quentin Johnston, and I think the new look offensive coordinator and Justin Herbert on a bounce back year, I think they're going to just try to sling it around a lot. So I like him. If you're going to give me 3 starting wide receivers in a flex in a PPR league, I'm going to try to have it be 4 wide receivers every single time I can. So that's my goal. And then lastly, super cheap, the Washington defense, technically with the stack again. 2,800 versus the Cardinals. Washington's defense was not bad last year. They just weren't like a top scoring one because they didn't score. They didn't have like pick sixes and fumbles for touchdowns, but sacks, pressure rates, low scoring games, they were good at. give me that on top of a terrible team that doesn't even know who their quarterback is. So that rounds out my entire DFS. Feeling pretty good about it. I really went no stars. I pretty much typically go balanced because I like to have variety and at least it's a season-long consistency game. So try not to win each week. I'm just trying to win the season. It's kind of my goal.
Fantastic. So, Cardinals are bad. That's it.
Turns out.
That's all you got to do.
You can stream at least one player in my lineup will probably be against the Cardinals every week. So there's that.
Every week.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up all of our segments. I know we had a lot of different competitions and challenges and things to cover. It will get more streamlined and easier just to cover what happened last week, what we're doing next week, but we wanted to introduce a lot of new ones to you guys. So those of them that we talked about that you want to play along with, let us know. We can get you in the action on week to week. Tell your friends or go sign up for the DFS one if you want to. Good luck in all of your matchups. Let us know any thoughts that you had on our good or bad takes with certain teams and certain players. Lots of different stuff to cover. We'll have some more shorts coming out of some of our better takes too, so please interact with those. Even a comment helps on that. We'll be obviously covering week 1 Fallout and week 2 next week, as well as the return of the draft. Have I missed anything so far?
No, I don't think so. No, it was a fun one. It's always fun to do draft kind of grades and reviews and see how that goes. So it's fun. Let us know what your guys' team looks like, what you guys think. Let us know what you think of our teams. Feel free, like you said.
Want to rate the team?
Yeah, rate your team. Send it over our way as well. I'll let Jack do that. But no, it's we have a lot of fun with it, so we appreciate we've had a whole lot more interactions with likes, comments, and things like that over the last kind of month. So we'll keep a lot of those short formats. We'll have a lot more content, especially for Jack and I, between betting and DFS. That's kind of our babies. So we're both really good at that. So it's a lot of fun. So we appreciate the time that everyone takes to listen to these, even if it's long form or some of these shorts. We put a lot of our time into it. It's 12:15 a.m. right now, so we're having a lot of fun with it. But we appreciate the time you guys take as always.
Quick shout out, friends of the show, Minnesota Sports, as we mentioned, go check them out. ADH Dads, still going on Spotify and YouTube. The Game Boys on YouTube, reviewing video games as well. So we got friends that kind of in all areas. So check them out. We appreciate them. They support us as well. Again, just anything helps. A like, a comment. Keep us doing what we're doing. We appreciate it. So we'll be back to you guys next week. We don't have to wait for 2 weeks or a month or anything. We're back 1 week from today. So excited to talk some real football in 2 days.
Football is back, baby. Peace out, Pod Squad.
Bye.